Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're all having a really great day so far. This afternoon we are going to work on planting some gorgeous stuff. It is starting to warm up though, so we're going to have to be really diligent with watering, making sure we water right after we plant and we get drip system run to them right away. We have a couple of days on our 10-day forecast that are showing temps at or above 100, which is where we're at typically. Typically by this time of year we've been experiencing that for a while. We've just been spoiled this year, but things are starting to put on growth. Like all of a sudden, just big boom in growth, lots of color going on, and that's fun to see as well. So Erin and my original plan this afternoon was to start placing stones. We had the 3 pallets of stones we picked out in a video I think last week were delivered yesterday, but I think we're going to do that in small increments, like in the morning when it's nice and cool out, because that spot's right out in the full sun. So I decided to do some planting instead. And I'm excited because 2 of these things I have not grown yet. And this is what we've got today. 3 different types of plants. So the Aphrodite Calycanthus, or sweet shrub, I've actually never personally grown these before. And I picked this up down at my parents' garden center the other day because I noticed it was just loaded with buds. And I thought, well, that's the one I should start with. Is one that I'm at least guaranteed flowers the first year. I just have no idea how this shrub is going to grow in our area. We planted 3, at our friend's house earlier on this spring, and I need to check in with them and see how they're doing at their house. But they had a plan made up by somebody else, and so I was just following the plan. So I put those shrubs in, not really knowing exactly how they're going to do for us. So they say that they're a sun or part shade loving shrub. I'm guessing in our area we need to provide a little bit of protection, maybe not. Maybe so long as they get enough moisture they'll be okay, but they can grow anywhere from 5 to 10 feet tall and wide. So I am going to have to put this somewhere where it can get to that size. I mean, because if it's got that potential, it will need some room. But the blooms do smell really good. They smell kind of like grapes, but just like this sweet kind of pungent, like almost grapes that have been on the vine for a while kind of smell. It's really good. So I don't know a tremendous amount about this one other than it is a zone 5 through 9 and it's supposed to bloom throughout the summer, which is amazing. I mean, these blooms are amazing. And the buds are pretty too, they're huge. Then we've got an Astilbe that's coming out next season. This one's called Dark Side of the Moon. And a few of these, if I come around this way, actually have buds, bloom stalks already forming, which is so fun. So this one, just seeing it right here, how it looks while it's not even in bloom, kind of these dark chocolate colored leaves with reddish stems. I think they're so beautiful. And this one is supposed to be able to handle sun or shade. And again, being a newer variety, I'm not sure. Usually Astilbes, we provide a little protection for those. The thing about Astilbes that you do have to be aware of is that they are picky about water. They want to be somewhere where they can have fairly moist soil. Not necessarily like sitting in water all the time, but they can't dry out. And if they do dry out, I will show you what happens to them, because I planted some Astilbe earlier on, like maybe just a few weeks ago. I thought the area stayed much more wet than it does. It does stay wet on one side, and those look really great. But the other ones, I didn't run drip to them right away because I thought the area stayed wet enough, and those kind of fried. They'll be fine. They'll pull out of it. I'll show them to you here in a second, but you do want to make sure that you don't let them sit and dry out. And I think for that reason, planting them somewhere that's more protected and maybe in a little bit more of like a part shade area would be beneficial. Now, they probably won't be as productive bloom-wise if they're in a full shade area, but their foliage is gorgeous. And then we have this glorious Phlox. This is the Opening Act Romance Phlox, which was a new variety this year. Oh my goodness, aren't these just amazing? So they stay a little bit smaller than other phlox. They top out at about 22 inches tall and grow upwards of 3 feet wide. So I've got quite a few of them. I mean, we're gonna create some impact in the garden with these. And they usually bloom throughout the summer, like they keep on blooming. They attract all the pollinators, which we have several phlox in our garden, and they do attract pollinators. But I love the pink flower with that white eye. And it's got like a little touch of yellow in the center. It makes them look like they're kind of glowing in a way. They're a zone 4 through 8, and phlox typically do pretty well for us because we are typically a dry climate. Even though these newer varieties, they hold up way better. Like they don't get powdery mildew as bad as the older varieties do and such, but living in a dry climate that does help with that, and you do want to make sure to space them to where they get enough airflow. Okay, so now we're just going to go out and get these all planted. right guys, so we got them all planted. I ended up splitting both the Astilbe and the Phlox into two separate areas, starting with the Astilbe here by the chicken coop in kind of a shaded area. It does get a little bit of sun, but I think they're gonna really do well here. So chicken coop, we're in the afternoon right now, so you can see that the ash tree is just beginning to shade the front of this bed, but it does get quite a lot of sun. But ever since we added this avalanche birch, which I really love this tree, it has added a lot of shade to this area. So I actually expect, I have got sweet romance lavender here, we've got some nepeta, there's also a chocolate decadence baptisia that's just going out of bloom, but oh my goodness, was it ever beautiful. And we've also got echinacea and stuff in here. I think eventually, and a buddleia, all this stuff's gonna have to move out of here because of the amount of shade in this space. So as I was thinking about what I wanted to add into this area right here, I got to thinking it might be good to use some things that can handle that. So anyway, we ended up with 5 in here. I know it's kind of hard to see because they're such a dark leaf color. They need to bulk up a little bit and kind of cover some of the soil. But I was able to fit 5 in this space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And with the height that they get, so what was that, like 22 inches or something like that, I think they'll be perfect because I still want to see over this area, kind of underneath the arbor. This is the pallet walkway that leads around the back side of the chicken coop, which is not leaving. I'm going to keep the pallet walkway. It's just going to redirect once it gets back there. And I don't want anything so tall that we can't see through this arbor and see toward the heartleaf. So I think this is the perfect choice. Also, there's a lot of green in this area just for now, so adding something that's got that dark color I think will be really nice. Oh, it's so pretty. It's times like these that I wish that I could show you exactly what I'm looking at in person, because they do show up better than they are looking like they show up on the camera screen here. Oh, I can't wait to see them bloom. And it's interesting that right on the other side of the walkway here, this is like the south side of the avalanche birch. We've got Lady Gardener roses right here. I mean, it's definitely a full sunspot right here. Got a container we just planted. There's a lemon jade sedum here. There's nepeta on this side of the walkway and some serendipity allium, some spearmint heuchera right in here. We've got a pixie miniature peach tree and some volunteer sunflowers growing in here. No, Aaron does not know about these yet. I think they're safe though, they're in a container. And then just the most gorgeous arbor full of wisteria. Oh, just, yes, imagine the formal garden right behind the heartleaf, being able to see that through the arbor. And I think that our centerpiece for this garden back here will be the centerpiece, like the vista underneath this arbor. Let me back up. So as you look, and you can't even see the heartleaf from here, you'll still see the centerpiece of that garden. So we'll have one centerpiece that will be like serving many different areas. So that's the Astilbe in the shadier spot. On the west side, I had 3 more. We put them over there where they are gonna get more sun, but that area holds onto a ton of moisture. So I'm hoping that by having that extra moisture, they will thrive in the sunnier spot. So they are right down the walkway here. Things are just looking so fresh still, even though we're heating up. I just looked at the forecast. We have a 105-degree day coming up in like 4 days. It goes into high 90s starting tomorrow, and then it goes to like 100, 101, 105. So I'm just gonna soak in every drop of fresh looking plants that I can. We actually put 5 of the Phlox right here too. So I guess we can look at these first since we came up on these first. I initially planted this one back here, and then I got to thinking I wanted to keep a more hollowed out spot there for something a little bit bigger. So I did move that one forward a bit. It also made it more of a long drift instead of a chunk, you know? So I think that that will be nice. I'm gonna come in with something that grows a little bit shorter right along the walkway here, possibly something that can drift over in front of these here. And here are the Astilbe. Right here in front of this Miss Violet Buddleia. You can see what happens to this flower bed in the afternoon. It's shaded by the arborvitae hedge. These are North Poles, doing beautifully over here, but it gets enough sun to where this area, all these whole sun plants are very happy right now. But this soil just hangs on to so much moisture, this whole side does. So we don't have to run the drip as long, and plants typically stay fairly happy here. I was reading up on this variety though, and when the leaves come out, they are a lot lighter in color right here, and then they deepen as they age. So that's a normal thing to see that kind of gradient of color. Now I have to show you my Astilbe shame over here, ones I let dry out. Okay, you guys remember these Astilbe that we planted over here? Well, there's a flush out in this area where our drip system every day flushes the water out of its system to get rid of any sediment or anything like that. And it flushes right here. In fact, you can see, look at how wet the soil is right there. And I thought for some reason that it covered way more of this area than it does, but these look as fresh as can be. But these, oh my goodness, not so much. So it didn't kill the plants, of course, you know, it just kind of, I could come in and groom them up and that would make them look a heck of a lot better. But these over here in particular really got nailed. So you can see we have run a drip line. Paul came in and ran a drip line on these plants, so they will be completely fine. But this is what happens to Astilbe when they don't have enough water, when you let them dry out even one time. So you gotta be careful with that. And I usually have stuff like that happen to me on occasion throughout the season. I get a little bit too confident in where I plant something and I shouldn't. We're walking out here next. I think we should take the scenic route because look at the Tuscan Sun Heliopsis. Holy moly, I am so happy we planted this many last year. They are so pretty. Feels like a long time since we started this project today, but did I mention that we had pallets of stone dropped off? That's what we were gonna do this afternoon, but it's so hot. Anyway, we're gonna start that tomorrow morning, and here's the stone. Oh, aren't they gorgeous? It's a mix of like larger pieces and then there's smaller pieces tucked in. And we're gonna pick through and probably not use a lot of them that have the brown in them. I'm not sure, there's not that many of them. We're gonna try to stick to mostly grays, but these are the stones we're placing in this area and a couple other spots in our landscape as little walkways. Also, while we're over here, I just wanted to show you how these poppies are doing. These are from the winter sowing over the snow when we tossed the poppy seeds out. And I realized that the only way they're gonna come up in our area, because we're typically too dry, is if they're right next to a drip line. So these came up because they had a drip line, but the others didn't because they did not have a drip line. But we're about ready to see some blooms here. It's exciting. Okay, this way. Very colorful out here, it's filling up. You can spot that little grouping of phlox from a mile away. They are so bright. We're about ready to mulch out here with the compost. We've got a pile sitting over there. That will make everything look really pretty, but we've recently added a few things to this spot. We've got perennials over there on the other side, but I've got this beech tree that we just planted. I planted a buddleia here. This is a pink buddleia last season, and then we've got a ornamental grass. It's a pennisetum. I think it's a desert plains. Anyway, I thought it would be nice just to bring in a little bit more color right in this spot, and that sure does it. My goodness. Can you imagine what those are gonna look like in bloom when they're 3 feet wide each? And the Calycanthus is right over here. I think that that is the perfect spot for it. And just let it grow. Hopefully, being in a sunny location right out here, eventually there's a Katsura tree right here that gets quite large, so it will provide some afternoon protection, but I'm hoping that it likes this spot out here. We're gonna make sure it gets plenty of moisture, especially this first year, but I feel like that's the texture we needed in this spot. We've got a black lace elderberry here, the green arrow weeping Alaskan cedar, which only grows about 4 to 5 feet wide, Wichita blue juniper, Sesky gold dwarf birch right there. There's a coral berry, which I might do a couple more coral berries in this space, totem pole, panicum, and then this Calycanthus just brings that the bold green that I did not have in this spot, and I just adore this plant. I love it here. It's perfect. And Aaron did agree with me that the blooms smell like grapes. So I can imagine once the shrub gets big and it's full of blooms, it's probably going to perfume the air in this area. And I'm looking forward to that. I will probably come along with land and sea compost for the Calycanthus later on, just to top dress a little bit, maybe help condition the soil a bit. And I think it would benefit from that. Well, my camera overheated and shut off when we were out there in the south garden, kind of entering the season where that's going to happen a lot more. Anyway, I'm glad we got through the tour so you could see where all of those ended up, and I'm just excited about them. I mean, the Calycanthus is just perfection, and I've never, I don't have any experience with that, so it'll be interesting. And then the Astilbe being a brand new variety, I think that will be fun, and then to be able to see how it does in 2 different locations as well. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.